We're back on the car after a successful little fire up and move out of the swept charger. It's awesome that it moves under its own power and is able to drive it outside. So I'm going to start stripping and cleaning on this, pulling more stuff out of it, get the engine over there, taking off its pallet, and get it ready to put the accessory drives and change the pan and everything on it. But last video of the car, I spent tons of time yanking this wiring harness out because it was installed before the dash and it was tucked up under things, and I showed in the video how just the mess of wiring and how difficult it was to get out. And then how we have this new motor, how it was running on the pallet, and how we were revving it up and running it, because this is basically the entire car was here. We had the steering wheel, we had the shifter, we had everything attached to this pallet. You could fire it up and run it and hear the motor run, and it was basically a complete running engine, which had the entire wiring harness for the car with it. So the entire wiring harness for the car was there. If you've ever seen an entire wiring harness for a modern car, this is the entire wiring harness that was on that pallet, which honestly is overly mind-blowing as you go through it. I mean, sure, we have got a computer module. That's the engine module, okay? And then we have a fuse battery box. We have some thingy that does something. Wires and plugs and harnesses and clips and things. We have another computer, probably a body module of some sort, cab module, some sort of other sensor. Now there's the, probably almost broke it. There's the push button starter. That was part of under the dash. Some of the stuff's kind of crazy because it's almost like they're cables or cable controllers. And then another block, I think that's another fuse box. I'm almost kind of interested in, it's probably 50 pounds of wire and harness. So you can see, like, if you tried to put this in the car to make it work, the rat's nest of what's there, like that seemed like a lot. Should we do that one more time? This seems like a lot. So, that's why we have the new harness. That's why we have the new relay, the new control module, new things for everything to work, and all this stuff kind of gets thrown away. Let's see if we can get this off the pallet, maybe get the pan on it. So I rigged up a little chain puller that I made years ago that I found out in the barn or the shed that I dug out, so I can kind of float this whole thing. Took a jack and jacked up the pallet and put blocks under it so I can get the cherry picker under it, and now I got it floating. So I'm hoping I can unbolt. Oh, need a different socket. I'll get a different socket to unbolt the back, take the mounts off, and need a different bolt for that also. I might have that right here. Why do those feel like they're American, not metric? Alright, I will get this unbolted, get it up in the air, drop the oil, see what it takes to change the pan, and all that good stuff. Well, got her floating off the pallet, and we're floating off the back tires of the lift. So what I need to do is drag the pallet out, find something I can lower the motor back down onto, then I can shorten the boom up here, get the boom in closer so it's a little more stable so I can work underneath it. because I need to pull the pan and all that kind of stuff. So let's open the door and slide the pallet out and get that moved around. Well, now it's at least all four wheels are supported on the ground from the little hoist. It's as unsketchily up as possible at this point for the equipment I have. So I'm going to leave these. I mean, they're the manifolds, or the factory manifolds. They're kind of crazy that they're not cast. They're actually a stamped, formed cold steel, which is most, you know, I would think less likely to crack, that kind of deal. You can see the seams are welded all the way around there. I have the headers off the other motor. I will see if the headers fit. If the headers are tighter or better, we'll go with headers. I personally am not a big fan of headers. I've had a few cars that they sounded better, ran better, had better throttle response, and I preferred them with manifolds. The back pressure and everything to the motor, just, it ran better. Yeah, on a dyno, whatever, everyone can blow me up about manifolds suck, headers are awesome, but if you want to drive a vehicle and drive it every day and not crack and not have exhaust leaks and not have it go under the car and ground and hit things and have clearance issues, and I think pros and cons, factory manifolds that were, I mean, if they were so great and so much better and so everything, I mean, these manufacturers are trying everything to get every ounce of power out of these from the factory, mostly this particular motor. I would think that this manifold would not be that restrictive and that bad for this engine. I wouldn't doubt if the headers I have actually, you lose power putting those headers on. I wouldn't be surprised. But anyways, that's a little rant on headers to manifolds. So I might use them, I might not. I don't know if the new computer module needs the O2 sensors off the header, or if I need O2 sensors off a cat, or if I have to have cats. I don't think so with the aftermarket performance stuff that I'm going with. I'm just going to take these off for right now, get the cats taken off and put back. I kind of like how tight they are and how they get the exhaust to where it goes. Maybe I could reuse them, maybe not. I'll save that stuff for right now, but that will come off. I do need to get the pan off, drain the oil, and put the other pan on it. Not sure what I'm going to do for transmission mount, so I'll probably unbolt just this. It's kind of cool how it's urethane mounted. You see how it just isolates the vibrations from the car. If I can use that, I will. I really like that. So that's pretty cool. Exciting that she's getting some progress. The amount of dust that's built up on her in the shop has been kind of crazy. Oh, I was also wanted to, so that this was bolted to that pallet, and these mounts were right on those holes and down on the pallet. Basically, I gotta give them credit. Just the fab work in these mounts to bolt it to the pallet, which are pretty much garbage. That was just for shipping purposes. I mean, you know, yes, it's probably on the plasma cutter and slapped up, but even just that slight bend and throwing it on the brake and having all the angles right, they had their shit figured out as far as to package these things up, throw them on a pallet, and sell it to you as a running motor combo. Just figure out how to put this in your car. Just put that in your car, and then put that stuff right there, and then hook that to, you know, just how we had it on the pallet. All right, let's get some exhaust off, get a pan off, maybe get some sort of bracing or supports on this so it doesn't fall on me. All right, well, got the pan off, got the new pan in, got the new pickup tube ready, got the windage tray off, got the relocated dipstick tube knocked out and got that put in, got that engine mount taken off. You're basically supposed to do this with the engine upside down on an engine stand, but I trying to keep the transmission together. I want to put it all in the car kind of in one piece. So I need to get the windage tray. These had to get these holes drilled out to match the new pan so that they bolt in that way. And that's going to fit like that. The oil pump pickup tube, or the oil pickup tube, they want you to do this upside down and fill this full of like a thicker oil so that once it's sitting upright, it's like a vacuum, or like a tube where you put your thumb over the whole, like a straw, you put your thumb over it and it can hold the liquid in the straw. And that way it will stay primed, and the oil pump will stay primed, because they don't want the oil pump trying to suck this long tube and it actually can get oil logged and not pump. So they want you to have it upside down and fill the oil pump with oil, and then put this up on it with this full of oil, and then once upright, this tube will have oil in it. I'm going to try to fill this tube with tape on it with like a 1540 thicker oil, and then I'm going to bolt this to the bottom of the oil pump, remove the tape, because if you leave the tape on, that's going to destroy the engine, and then hopefully there's enough vacuum and suction there that it stays in place, and I'm able to do it on the rack, and I can get that accomplished. So I got to get the windage tray kind of put on and stuck on so that it stays, and then put the oil filler or oil pickup tube back on, and then I can put the pan on all upside down and not have it fall on me. I kind of lay on the side, off the side of the creeper, or off the side of the cherry picker, so I can kind of hold it up in place and then put bolts on it. But see if I can get her done. Well, we got the new pan on. My little oil filler neck tube attention to hold out, the tape let go, and then I couldn't hold it upside down, and then I couldn't get the screw in it, and I spilled a bunch of oil on my face, and it became a big thing. And the other problems we ran into is it came with all new bolts, but if you look at the front bolts where they go into the aluminum water pump housing, timing cover, and all that kind of stuff, the bolts were too long. They bottomed out, so I had to put some washers up in those to make those catch so that they hold. Apparently I got to make some sort of splash shield for the bottom, because that doesn't cover anything there, so I'll need a splash shield for that. I got the headers out that I have, and looking at the manifolds that's there and sizing of what they are, I'm pretty sure they're almost exactly in the same position, so I think they would work just fine. One thing that has me like not sure if I want to, if you look at just the throat of, I mean, that's, my hands aren't tiny, that's a big throat that bolts onto. That's the back of this manifold that's on it. It's a pretty good size hole, which if you compare the Ford collector to it, it's, you know, roughly the same, if not more. I do have a collector that goes on that, which I think necks down to a 3-inch. So still on the fence about headers, if I want to use them or not. I do have them. Pretty sure they're gonna fit exactly the same as the manifolds fit. So that's done and done. Basically, I think at this point it's ready for the cradle and the engine mounts, and then I got to put on the water pump and a few other things going on to it so it can go in the motor. But now I can clean up a little bit. You put some dollies down and put it on the ground so I can at least move it, and then I can start stripping on the car, getting the car kind of cleaned up and get it ready for its new cross member and that kind of thing. So that's movement on the Hemi. Well, getting the Cuda's engine bay cleaned up more, got the radiator taken out. I need to figure out some sort of mount for the AC condenser coil. It was kind of mounted to the same brackets that the radiator was mounted to. The new motor, the radiator that I was using, I will not longer be using. We're going with a much bigger radiator that's fitted and custom made to this car. The steering wheel and console from this mess is not going to get used, so I need to get a box and start throwing all that away. I would like to be able to roll this off the lift so I could open the doors and work on it. So I really want to put the front suspension kind of on it so I could just roll this car around. I don't want to kind of mock 1,000 times, so I think I'm going to set the motor on the cross member and like fit the motor and get the motor in here and kind of work on the wiring and electrical and stuff with the engine, like in the engine bay. So I just went over to the storage compartment and, hi girl, how are you? You're doing good. And I just dug out that whole pile of stuff. So we have to start unboxing some of that, seeing what will fit, what won't fit, and what modifies and what doesn't modify, and all that kind of fun stuff. Even if I can just get the cradle on it to where I could lower it down and have some sort of support and balance to put dollies on it, so I can move it. Because to be honest, I want to like do the exhaust and different things on that. It'd be nice to be able to put it on the lift or do other things. This guy's kind of just pinning up the lift. Plus it's hard to work on the lift. The way the shop's laid out, I actually have made this so you have all this space behind the lift so that I could turn a car sideways and work on it right here even. So got a lot of cleanup to do today. Want to go through stuff. Still got to go through some things on that girl. Been throwing parts in here, but I'm kind of getting too many things scattered around. So I'm going to spend some time cleaning, picking some stuff up, and maybe I'll get the front cradle put in it and see if I can find the engine mounts, decide what I need to do with the engine mounts on that. I still haven't fully decided if I'm going to get rid of those manifolds and go to those headers. Like I said before, just because they're headers, everyone like, oh, they're headers, you got to make them, they got to be better. But I do own them. They will fit. That one's a little beat up because that was going into the power steering rack, or the power steering, or not power, the steering gear of the old motor. That one. Still don't know what I'm doing with this block yet. If it's just a boat anchor, honestly, it's just taking up room in my shop at the moment. I need to just get rid of it. Oh, so that's got a front mount oil filler neck on it. I wonder if I want to transfer that to this, because this has this straight down oil cooler. I don't even know if that oil cooler is needed or you have to use it, or if you should use it or you need to use it. So those are kind of some of the things to figure out once you put the cross member on it, put it up underneath the car to see how it works. Also, one of the reasons I haven't really got rid of this, because I can't remember if that's a factory thing or if that was something I added so that it was easier to change the oil when I had it in the car before. So, anyways, keep it moving, keep it rocking, see what we can figure out. I'm just trying to find a spot and stack boxes up out of the way for the car. I was thinking, I bought this stuff a while ago. Like I said, I've been slowly acquiring parts for this car until I thought I had enough things to tear it apart and start building it. I never even opened any of these boxes. So I just opened this one of just the A-arms. And I gotta be honest, I'm overly impressed. They are well made, well welded, gusseted. So I am going to open a couple other boxes just to see what's what. And the wheel would break brakes or Willwood brakes, but I'll probably open and see. I think this is the cost member. Just scored the plastic, but I haven't. Well, let's open this. I don't even know what's in a box. It's a big piece of plastic. Oh, let's see here. So, it's got the parameters are set up for the motor that I'll be using. It's rack and pinion up in the front. The K-member bolts should bolt right into the factory holes and bolts. And then you have your upper control arm, lower control arm for the suspension. Back to everything else, just the powder coating's really nice. Doesn't seem like it's going to chip. Seems like it's good quality, so yay! I'll throw that off the side and probably wrap it in plastic, but then I don't have to have it in that big old box, so it's not taking up a ton of room, which honestly, depending on how far I get today on stuff, I might mess around with putting it on the motor and putting it on like some sort of cart or something so I can roll it under the car. I doubt I'm going to get it mounted to the car today. I've kind of just been relaxing a little bit today, not doing too much. So it's the sway bar and probably bushings and mounting stuff. So that box has the sway bar. Let's take and set that over here because it saves me some room for other things. Let's rip this box open and see what the K-ray frame or cross member or whatever you want to call it, the engine cradle. Let's see what that looks like. In this box we've got our spindles. And I can't remember exactly. Oh, little frost. It was cold out there. They're 2-inch lower than stock. I can't remember. You can order spindles by a certain stroke length. Thought this was kind of funny. The next box I opened, you know, well, this box is obviously the power steering rack, so there's no reason to open it up. But honestly, it looks like a nice rack just out of the box. I have no idea brand or who. But I opened this box. It had the mounts, and so these are the engine mounts to the particular engine I have, right side, left side, whatever. But if you look at it, there's like, you know, obviously a spacing there for, so it needs some sort of bushing or bushing kit for that to go in. So I started digging through all the other boxes, and this is the end of the other boxes. This is the suspension box. It's got our nice coilovers, and then another box with our coils, and a bunch of pretty nice parts in here, and some bearings that have zero idea where they go, and all that kind of fun stuff. And then in that box was a nice little pamphlet of how to do's it. I think some people call those directions. So I'll have to YouTube how to read so I can read how to read and install this fun stuff. But honestly, I guess I've been saying the word honestly a lot. There's like, what, 13 pages? So pretty straightforward, small set of directions for the amount of stuff you have to do here. But then I never found the bushings for the engine mounts, and I thought, you know, this is probably why you should open this stuff as soon as you get it to see if you're missing anything or have to read anything. And then I was like, you know, these are just going in a box. I might as well just put them in a different box, and then voila! Bushings in the bottom of the box. So they're all there. Everything's there. Good high quality stuff. This car is going to handle amazing. Hoping the power, I can plant it to the ground and drive the shit out of it. This car is not going to be any show winner by any means. I'm not giving two shits to park it and make people look at it and oogle and all. I honestly want it to drive. I want to enjoy it, you know, just like that as a driver. I'm going to drive that to work every day. I'm going to take it to my cabin. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to take it places. I'm going to do things with it. I want to get in this and go fast. and have fun and have some adrenaline and put a smile on my face and take people for rides and put smiles on their faces. I'm not going to wash it and polish it and take it to a show and sit in a chair and have people stare at it. No. Nope. All this is for enjoyment of myself and other people to take them for rides. Well, let me clean up this mess and start organizing, putting things away. One of the other things I need to get squared away before I get carried away and try to stiff the engine in here is, like I said, I need to get this AC coil, kind of figure out a mount and things before the engine's here. It's going to be a lot easier to drill holes and mount that and clean up some of these wires and hoses, things that direction. But I really want to get this kind of as a roller so I can at least move it around the shop and not take up room in the bay. But I need to kind of figure out the radiator too. So one of the other major purchases is this apparently custom-made radiator for this car, for this engine combination. So I'm going to play with this real quick. Looks like it comes with some fan relays and all the fun stuff for it, and some directions, and. So looks like that came out of the box. I will, woohoo, more writings and wordings. Looks like this more mounts lower style. So I will see what its mounts all involve and see how it fits. And it might have provisions for the AC on the front. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm going to test fit that in before I start working on cradle and that. I still have the upper control arms from the car in. I need to get those out, get those knocked out of place, pull a few other things out. Then I need to lift the engine up, get the mounts on, put the cradle on the engine, that kind of thing. And got inspectors helping. You guys helping? Are you? Okay, yes, thanks. All right. You know, for the expense of this, you start off and you just slide it in, and the height that it fits over the cowl, it lines up to the bolt holes nicely. You look down here at that lower where it's got a little notch where it fits right around that frame. And everything seems to be perfect. Has nice fans, has these little flappers, so if you're doing fast enough for a little extra wind to blow through, it's not restricting airflow. Fits up front, but then very disappointed in, what's this shit? And it's not even, it needs more cooling. They talk about you need a bigger radiator for more cooling for this motor and whatever else. There's what, 3-4 inches of more cooling space there that I could have a bigger radiator fit that spot. And this radiator is supposed to be made for this. I gotta make some measurements and make some calls and see if that's gonna fit. Do you guys think it fits? Was one died already? All right. Got both bolts out. We should be able to lift and pull and pull and pull and suspension out. Well, these had new bushings, things in it where the car was done here a few years ago. These were sandblasted and just like a rattle can to silver gray kind of color, but all that was new nice materials and thingies. I'm not going to throw them away, but I'm sure they'll be in a barn stored forever and a day at this point. Now, I'm not sure if this kind of stuff has to be, the bump stops get cut off or relocated or anything that way. So I will look at some of that and figure some of that out. But I'll knock the other side out, and I've got the inside cleaned up a little bit on this side, pulled all the wiring and everything out of over here, had a bunch of ground wires and straps and stuff off. Those are fan wires going to the fans. These are the heater core hoses. I'm going to leave them because it's pretty much the same type. I'm going to need a new grommet for this really not round hole for the electrical wire going in. And I still have to get all that cleaned up. Oh my God. I cut apart all that looming and everything in there. Oh my God. I figure that's the wiring coming out just for headlights, taillights, and stuff into the cab. I'm going to change up the brakes. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the proportioning valve. I got this adapter coupling that was put in here. I might need to change that to a different pipe or a different hose. It looks like it was definitely a little corroded. I think converted is a different word. I'll pull these bolts here and here so I can get the A-arm out of the other side. This side's being a bit of a bummer. Or a biatch. Get some coverage. And come on. There it goes. Got it. So according to the good old directions, this bump stop, and I guess they're considering this a bump stop, which is just a frame support off of this, all needs to be removed for the new suspension. So I will get the death wheel and the grinder and go to town on that. If you noticed, all this is bed lined. The entire underside of this car was sprayed with bullhide bed liner years ago, so it's all hard coated, that type of deal, which makes welding and working on after the fact a big pain in the boot, but that is what that is. I'll pull these bolts out so that when I'm running the death wheel I don't screw up Mr. Threads on those, because that is one thing you do have to reuse by the factory is these bolts. A little bit of corrosion on that end, but the threads and everything look pretty good on it, so those will continue to use on this new crossing member. It's funny, on the directions it shows everything being done with the engine in the car as if you took out your old cross member and support the engine and float the engine and attach the cross member to the engine and then do it to the frame. And I'm going to attempt to put that under the motor, bolt the motor to it, and then put it all in one piece, even though I haven't test fit or put anything in, and I'm just going to try to make it work and see what happens, because why not? I ain't surprise in a 72 frame where the metal was touching is so rusted and thin there. Ooh, focus. Focus. There it is. So I'm going to cut this out. The other side of the bump stop here literally fell off, and these were big rust holes. And I just hit them with the grinder, and that metal's nice and thin. So I'm going to basically cut this out, take some heavier plate metal I would have, weld that into that. I'll worry about this side and kind of do the same thing under here. And I guess that kind of goes back to the nice part of all new suspension and everything and a bolted on K-member. But if you look, that's where the bolts go. So this is behind that. So this is where the car meets that front suspension that holds the engine. So this needs to be quite stout and quite strong. So I'm going to take some time and make sure that's good and solid. I will get the other side cut apart and go from there. Next! The passenger side's got way better news. That's nice and solid. I mean, it's a little surface rusty on, but not bad at all. When cut, these are quite solid and hard inside. So I'm going to grind them down, see what they look like, chisel some of this material off, see if I can get up underneath it and get that stuff off there. At the heat of grinding, it's peeled off a little bit, but damn it. It wasn't crazy thick, but that's up on the side part of the frame there. Cool. Well, I'll grind that down. Okay, now this is just funny. I was working down here on my knees up under this wheel well, working on these grinding spots and my new plate and things that were put in. And I kneeled down on a like sharp piece of metal and I was like, God, that hurts. I hate kneeling. And then I remembered I have this big lift thingy here, and if there's push this button on the other side and it goes up in the air, and I can stand right here and I can add plates and weld and do things. And so, hey, if you have a lift, why are you working on your knees? Dumbass. It's kind of funny. I was finishing up this plate and I cut back some material so I can get into here, and this is like sandblasty, surfacey metal, and then you could see a weld curving up this way, and this is brand new metal underneath this. And then I all of a sudden remembered when I built this back in 08-ish, whatever the hell it was, I did have a bunch of sectioning of new metal. So you have from back in here, well, might even be right there off of this plate down, this is all new metal, and then there's new metal up under here. So I was cutting out rusties and said you didn't have frame rails and things. I was sectioning and building and fixing this before, so I must have left the bump stops before because of keeping suspension geometry and whatever right. So now I've just sectioned into that and then ground into that. So I'll finish grinding this down, and basically it's new metal from here back to here. So good, bad, or indifferent, it's been changed and cleaned, and I even had to get up underneath and cut another section out, cut into here and go all the way up into where the mounting bolt is. This is thicker metal and thicker gauge, and so I can get into that thicker metal right there. Looks ugly as shit, but it'll grind up, clean up, and it'll look fine here in a minute. Passenger side, much, much stronger steel. So once we cut into that, I was able to easily get in, and I could actually turn up the welder and got good penetration, and it didn't burn through or pop through. So much, much happier with this side. The bottom side's even much stronger things that way. So that little hole is down and gone. But over here I had to kind of laugh as I'm looking at it, and if you look at the old coating material right here, this is where the tire must have been rubbing back to trying to run big, wide, and goofy tires that didn't look right on the car. You can see where it was rubbing here, but also the whole like trying to hide AC lines and putting them up in here, and actually put the dryer, and it was actually mounted up high. You can see where the mount was. Try to keep the engine bay looking cool and blah, blah. Back to mechanical makes more sense, and I don't care. You need a dryer, it's part of the AC system. You're going to see it. But if you look right here, that's where the tire rubbed and hit it a couple times, and it did lose AC, and I'm pretty sure you see all the residue and stuff up here. Either the top of the fitting popped or broke, or that opened. So just one of those things that live and learn, trying to make it cool looking, but it's unfunctional. So, you know, obviously that's going to get ripped out and need to be put on the other side, and tearing up all that kind of stuff so that it's more functional. In fact, I don't care if you see an AC dryer under the hood. It has air conditioning. Yep, that's what it's there for, so I can stay cool when my car's hot and fast. So I'm going to grind this down a little bit, clean this up, slap some undercoating on. I just kind of came out here tonight after work for a little bit just to play on it for a couple minutes to get it further along. Like I said, this weekend I really want to put the engine in it, get it on a roller so I can at least roll it around. I am pretty concerned that this hump here isn't going to clear for the transmission. I think I'm going to need to cut this out somewhere, somehow. So I think we're going to be going up and down a bunch of times tomorrow. Did I just step on? I think I did. I think I did. Yep. Brand new wheel garbage. Well, that was smart of me. Well, clean this up, grind it down, do a little coating on it, and I think that'll be what I'll do for the night. All right, I gotta be honest here. I just like brushed on some cheap bed liner coating, undercoating shit and I figured it would look crappy. You'd still see the welds and whatever, which it's structural, it's fine. That's behind the tire. I'm going to clean this up a little bit, take some rattle can black and just kind of spray it real quick in there just so it's a little shinier black. I drove the car. It's mud and dirt. It's going to get driven. It's going to get driven again. So, good. I'm going to throw the word enough. That'll be cleaned up and fine. Scrub and clean some of that grease and oil out of there. And all sorts of fun. Alright, so I've got the cross member loosely put in here. And I need to share a little bit of my dumbassery, because I don't know what I'm doing. So I had the mounts that come with the kit here. They say passenger, drivers, and passenger right and drivers left. They're clearly labeled. And so there's only one way, well, two ways you put them on. They can put it on like this or put it on like that. Honestly, I truly thought turning them the other way, where the mount kind of came down in this angle here, puts it over here. I had both mounts on and laying under here by myself trying to lift this little thing up and put it on this while it's still up on the cherry picker and not dropping it on me. I was getting really frustrated because it wasn't, I'd get one side bolted and then the exhaust was hitting right here on the frame, and I nicked up my pretty little frame and couldn't fix it. Then I was like, maybe the manifolds won't work. I'm going to have to go with some sort of header arrangement. But no, you have to flip these around and put them there so that it mounts up at the front, and then the rack goes in the back there. A lot of suspension things, racks go in the front, so the rack kind of goes up there. Honestly, just their sticker, I kind of figured they wanted to see it up the front is what put it that direction. Back on headers. The headers seem to be exactly the same position to what these are. And I have, well, as of right now, I'm not putting the headers on. Maybe when they're in the car or afterwards, I might put those on. Those are actually Cerakoted or something coated or whatever, heat stuffed exhausts that I'm pretty sure would work. But I don't like headers. I really don't. So I think I'm going to stay with that the way it is. I think I can put the heat shield back in here for this and put the factory heat shield back around the starter. I can do that on the lift when it's actually in the car. I still think I'm going to have to take this in and out of the car a handful of times for the transmission hump or whatever I'm going to do for this mount. So now I'm going to put those dollies under here, kind of do the same thing I did last time when I took the motor out. I'm going to put some pallets and tires and try to stack something up to hold this motor in basically this position so that I can lower the car on it and get these bolts to line up. And if I can get this cradled in the car, then I'll try to get the front suspension on and all that. Then hopefully I don't drop it on my ass. All right, my custom specialty made engine transmission cart. If you would like the designs and patents of these, you can contact me at backwoodsjackass.com, and I will sell you one of these for 5 easy payments of $49.99.99, and you too can roll your engine transmission that cost more than you ever wanted to spend on a car under your car to lower it down on. So I got the holes and the hose, and then this theoretically should go in this department, up in here with all this stuff, and in here. So I'm gonna have myself eyeball this. I'm gonna watch this while I go over here and I push the release and I lower it down. And then I'm going to ask me to make sure that I see what's going on over here while I do that. And then if I need to adjust this, I can turn this while someone's over here looking underneath to make sure nothing hitting over here. So while the 4 of us do this, and plus my filming crew over here, hey filming crew, you need to watch what we're doing. So let's see how we can get this done. Woo, it's in. It's not in. All right, I was setting a little low. Got a little clearance. Let's give her a little, give her a little love. Oh, lots of this. This bolt is not where that bolt goes, so we got to slide her back. All right, more adjustment. To the front shocky mount, which all that grinding and getting rid of the bump stop, and that was what all that was for. This slides really tightly up through here. You still use the factory upper A-arms for the lower A-arms, but this is seeming to clear really well. Our bolt holes are lining up good there. I mean, it's no big block elephant Hemi, but it's still somewhat tight. A little more clearance on this side than that side. My alternator clearance is just gonna barely clear, I think. So transmission looks pretty good. I'm not gonna stand up and stretch over there right now. This is just rubbing clear there, so that's looking good. And then as far as, get under the car, the transmission mount, I don't know. I still don't know about this. This is where I was questioning if I have to cut all this out and where that's going to fall. I have some screws and shit I got to get rid of from when I had the interior and when I redo that. So I might have to cut this and then make some sort of flat tunnel in here and then figure out some sort of different transmission mount that uses this back brace or something. I don't know if I've got to get rid of these torsion bar mounts, or maybe I could use the torsion, I don't know. So I'm going to come down a little bit more, stuff this in, see if this rubs or clears, and if it's in here, and see if I have to go up and down 27 more times. Oh, underneath the car, and back up, and down. Ta-da! See, I'm like a gymnast. Well, apparently need to get rid of the steering linkage, or the steering rod, so up again, and I will pull the steering rod out. It looks like my previous notch on the 6.1 Hemi that was in here will give me clearance for the alternator. So jack the car back up, and take the steering thing out, and try it again. Well, we're almost totally in up front. I could probably drop the transmission a little bit in the back. Oops. But yeah, this is it's not going to work. It's a little snug. I'm pretty sure this is kind of where it's going to be. It's home. So I am going to jack the car back up and somehow cut this out and figure out what I need to do to weld in a plate up and around in here for some cross member support, something. But yeah, under here we've got plenty of room. Exhaust is looking happy, and our bolt holes are gonna go, but you can see we're not quite even touching up here. It kind of goes back to, we can angle it down a little bit. And the motor's sitting pretty level, looking decent. I just pretty sure we're going to need a little more clearance up that way, even if we pitch it back. The motor's sitting a little high in the rear. Probably throw a level on that real quick just to see what it's at. Level. Put this over here. There's a hose on it. That ain't gonna give me what I want. That hose is too dang tight for that. No, equidistance on the hose. That motor's sitting pretty level on that dolly. So I don't know if I can go on top of the head here, if it's going to give me anything. Well, there's right on top the valve cover. It's even a little high on the nose, so I didn't realize the car is not perfect on this here. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty level on the damn cart, on the lift. So definitely need the back end to come up a little bit more. So up with the car, and I will take that area out. And Derek, why didn't you tell me? What are you doing? You promoting your crap? All right. So apparently he's working on a Ford, and I'm working on a car. That's not a Ford. All right, put my level back. All right. Well, all that work to hack it up. So let's hack up the car some more. And fuel goes in there. Hi there. It's dusty. Dust. See if I can do that without touching the transmission at all, so I can just drop it straight back down. Yeah, that's not gonna fucking happen. They're freaking flopping. Yeah, you know what I mean. Well, it's really close to being in. The bolts are almost touching here. I'm kind of catching the bumper notch here. I might notch or give me a little clearance, but I also have to come back a little there. I'm definitely hitting the rear transmission in that spot there, but I think that's because we're kind of in an angle and I need to lower that a little bit. So I'm just staring at a tire. But I'm confident where it's at that I can lift the car back up, finish cleaning up that spot, grind that down, clean that up, and get it sealed up and painted so I can drop the car back down around it. Maybe this can be in its new home today. Isn't that exciting? You want to be in this car? You want to make this car a lot of fun? In my Barracuda? Into beater. All right. Up she goes. Up the ladder to the roof, we can see. Yeah. 40-mile-an-hour winds, 50 degrees outside, all the snow is gone. Movie magic man. Alright. That thingy that was sitting right there is no longer there. Looks like a little spray foam had been filled in it at some point. I'm going to take a grinder and clean up this. Probably going to whack these off in here and take some undercoating and coat this with some undercoating. But we're going to drop the car back down on, see if I can get at least 2 bolts on the carrier, maybe put like a ratchet strap on this and just kind of see how it looks. If it looks good, then I will jack it back up, address this, clean this up before I bring that back down, because basically I want to bolt the frame to that and then make some sort of carrier to hold this in place so I can fab up and figure out some sort of mount. Down again. Hey, did I ever say how much I love this light under the lift? Well, I can see. Go in your hole! Come on. She's in her home! You're home! Let's see what's going to happen. I have a custom transmission mount in. I've got the think one of my, whoop. Alright. I'm gonna have to, you gonna hold it? I think so. One custom transmission mount. I can bring the hoist under that and lift that up, and I'm probably done with the custom engine dolly. So if anyone wants to purchase a 2-time used engine dolly, it's you know, I'm not going to ship it. You got to come get it. It's ready to go and I'm done with it. Let's get that secured. Engine mounts are all in and holding. Those are up. Nothing's really touching. Exhaust looks like it's exactly where it needs to be. Transmissions. I need to, oh shit. My custom mount, my custom transmission mount's not even holding. All right, I need to get that guy tightened up. So we're just hanging off the engine mount. All right, your engine mounts are good and stout. Let's adjust that real quick, shall we? Yeah, that's nice and tight. I can get that guy off of there. I did have to, I didn't have to, I put a little plastic on here because I need to keep my custom stuff as pretty as possible with its undercoating wet sticky stuff there. So let's see what we can figure out for a transmission mount. I don't even know how this is mounted. I'd like to use this somehow, but I also don't have a lot of clearance, so let's see what I can figure out. Well, while Derek rattle cans a dash for a just show-stopping finish, I figured I should show what we got going on here, because I am really excited. When this car gets done, I'm going to win probably every best of show. I'm thinking I might even get the Riddle Award. It's cut out, it's cleaned, it's got some fresh undercoating on it, and then when the car's over the top, you're not going to see it, because you know what's going to happen when this car's done. My goal is to wear out as many tires as possible. You don't do that putting it in a trailer. I'm going to make that structural. Once I get the cross member made, that's not going to rust. It's sealed and cleaned. Let's see if we can get this thing in here. You ready to go in your home? Do you want to go in your home? Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Let's put you in your own home. Your home. Let's go in your home. All right. Let's get it in its home. Well, there's about where she's going to sit. Got a support holding it. Got a nice little clearance around everything. It's tight, but not quite touching. And I think as I lowered or unbolted it, she dropped down just a millimeter, but I can get my fingers just barely in there. This has a nice urethane mount here, so if I mount to this, and then I'm going to have to build a, a bushing or something in here to bolt out in here and there, I can still use that bushing bolt that was there. I'm trying to decide if I want to unbolt this and make like a urethane mount in here to get it up a little bit higher. And as long as I'm lower than the pan or higher than the pan, I don't have a low spot of clearances and that kind of thing. I'd like to keep it as tight as I can just so I still have an area to get my exhaust through. The car is going to sit fairly low, so that's where I'm at. So I'm trying to dig through some steels and think if I want to make a plate system and then kind of bolt it in here and tack it, weld it together under the car, and then go finish weld it and then get it to bolt in. So let's get a little mount made. It might take me a while to figure this part out, and then I will get the front suspension put on it. I mean, they already kind of pre-engineered all of it, so technically I should be able to loosely put all this in, get the front suspension on, throw some tires on it, and I should be able to put it on the ground. I was just looking up here. I've been still trying to figure out if I want to keep the oil cooler, because there's this oil cooler and filter the way this sits, I'm not sure with the rack and pinion here if that's going to be in the way. Maybe if I just get rid of the cooler and just bring the filter all the way up, or I might have to do one of those little like 45 filter adapter thingies right here. Just little things to figure out. Other people have done it. Other people have figured it out. I'm trying to, you know, not do it hard, but also figure it out myself and not just copy somebody else that's just done it because they did it. But also you gotta give credit where credit's due. A lot of people have figured out all these problems and made these things, you know, pretty straightforward. So I might as well take advantage of it where I can. Somebody probably figured out a transmission mount for this exact transmission, exact application, and it bolts right in, and you could call them and order it for $86 million. I got a welder and I got some steel. I'll figure something out. It probably will look goofy, but it'll hold the transmission in place. Let's see what I can get done. All right, I just made this plate real quick. It's thicker steel, but I'm going to end up welding some crisscross gussets and things on. I need to grind off this old paint so I can weld on it. I did take this lower urethane mount off, so this will bolt right to here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go take a couple pieces of rubber floor mat that I have over by my toolbox. I'm going to cut some squares, drill the holes the same size, and this will actually sit on 2 layers of rubber bolted in between that. I'm going to angle those pieces up a little bit and then make a plate to go to here, make another plate over here, plate, 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 tack weld it all on, take it down, finish weld, blah, blah, blah. All right, cut a couple squares out of these. Basically an old floor mat. We'll offset those so they go like that. Drill some holes in. And then those two can be my isolation from what the old mount was. So there's the square of that. We'll be putting that in between that plate. And better than solid steel connection. It's very roughly tacked up. I need to take it down, finish welding, start adding gussets, adding support, and paint it, put it in, bolt it up. Let's take her down. Well, here she is, kind of gusseted up. I threw a gusset across here. Basically used a round bar to roll across from this to this, so the 4 bolts that are going to the transmission go up to 3 points on each side of the mount. It's been burned and welded all the way around, has supports going across it. We've got the urethane mounts that are going to go across the bottom side. This is a show-winning perfect piece of metal. Back to, I think the Riddler Ward will be appreciative of this. Will it hold the transmission square perfectly in place? Absolutely. Now I need to go over to the paint booth and take this out to the paint shop and find a high quality rattle can that we might have laying around somewhere. And whoo, primer, and more primer. Find out what color we're going to do this. And we'll get some high-end color on it. And then we can put it in the side. I might even go as far as to spray it down with some carb cleaner just to get it clean before we paint it off. Well, while we wait for our cross member to dry, we will play with our suspension pieces and see if we can get them to kind of dry fit in. If you look up in here how this fits, we have to put a spacer in between each bar and get those fitted in there. So I need 17 hands. So I can put one hand on the back side, feed the bolt, then put a spacer, and then push the bolt, and then a spacer, and then put the nut on the other side. So this will be all sorts of fun to make work. Well, the question of the day of the oil filter was, it's got to go. So yanking the filter, yanking the cooler, because with the rack and pinion going in here, there's absolutely no room for that. So that answers that. Had to do some modifications to the rack. There's some extension pieces that had to go in it. So these have been pulled, and you have to take apart the rack. Put this in it to make it work. So now I'll take the oil filter off and bolt the rack on. Then I can put the drop spindles in, get the spindles on, get the shocks on it, and see where we're going to get. Will it be on wheels tonight? We will see. It's getting late. Well, one of the best shows ever, which had a pretty dang cool truck in the whole thing. And if you notice the color scheme of a certain truck, definitely inspired a certain color that we went with on that guy. Alright, back to work. Correction to my ignorance. So in this little bag of just hardware bolts, there are these bolts. And looked up to find out where I can get wheel studs, because I went upstairs digging what I have for studs, and I just have traditional drive-in studs. I looked up, proper studs for Willwood brakes, and they showed this part number, and I dug through the box, and I actually do have them. So I am going to put these in the proper 4 on 5.5 hole, which I don't know which one it is at the moment. Torque them down, pack my wheel bearings, set my wheel studs and things that way. Make sure that if I need to put the spacers on before, looks like that needs to go on before. I really wish there was directions to this. I might have to YouTube me a video real quick before I put it too far together. And like, it's all going to be finger tightish so I can take all apart, but I just want to put wheels on it so I can set it on the ground. That is my goal for the night. And we're not quite bedtime, so see what I can get done. Well, I've officially got to, I think, a stopping point where I can't go much further. We have the rack hooked up. Everything is just hand tight. I don't have a single thing tight for any reason. The lovely little Willwood brake system here. These caps unscrew. You can set the back bearing in. Holy smokies. Set the bearing in there. I could grease pack it and put this in. This will go on here. I don't even want to put the brakes or anything on because I was kind of just wanting a roller. And then I'm looking, right here, these are threaded. So I need like threaded studs or, something to put something on even temporary if I had just 2 or 3 bolts to put on for putting the wheel. But I don't think I have anything. I'm going to dig up through some of my old wheel studs and stuff I have upstairs. I don't have any of the lug nut studs that would go onto that. The brake rotor, clamps to the back. The other part that's out of all my lovely garbage, I don't have anything with directions for the brakes. Nothing came to tell us what does what. These are the pads on the back. I'm sure I could Google some of this stuff or look up how to do, and I'm sure it's self-explanatory to a certain point. But I just know I don't have these wheel studs to put a wheel on it to lower it to the ground just to be able to set it on the ground. So I will, why do something if I have to take something else back apart to go the other direction? But we have a transmission in. The engine is in its home. The steering and rack and front end is basically together. Basically took a day to do, and I'm done. I will get the transmission mount bolted in here in a few minutes. I'll lower it down on the rack just so that I can take another look at the motor from the top side, make sure everything's good. But I think that was my day. Getting more exciting by the second. Got both in. I greased and packed the bearings. I'll still have to take this off to do other things. But I should even be able to put the brakes and stuff on from behind. Everything's still really loose under there, but I went digging out back. I did find a bunch of wheel studs so I can put the tires on. Don't look at these ugly, horrible wheels, but I am going to put its other wheels back on it. And I am going to lower it on the ground. The mount is in. So that's transmission's got the urethane or the rubber floor mats underneath that for bolted to that, so it has some cushion that way. If you look, the transmission's sitting nice and flat across that whole thing. Super excited. I'm about to put it on the ground with its new suspension and new motor. So let me get the other 3 finger tied it on. And I haven't been able to see the top of the motor yet since I've done this because I've been underneath the whole time. So, yay! Are you in your home? Yes, you are. You're in your little home, aren't you? You're in your nice and solid. You're not moving. Nothing's touching. Everything's got clearance. Oh, look at that big suspension thing. And we have all sorts of room up here for activities. We did put the mounts to push the motor just a little bit further back. So that's giving us gobs o' room. Steering's going to be a whittle tricky. We got to come off the steering to an angle over here and then probably a double joint and have to put some sort of fitting because up in there, so everything's going to kind of be tight, but it's going to fit. Super excited. It's fitting really, really nice. The stance is great as far as our height. The wheels are going to be thrown away. Don't worry about the rims. They are just the only thing I had I could bolt on it right now. But we can get away from it for a second. And got crap everywhere in the shop. Had a heck of a day. All right. Dropping things. My battery died in my welder today, or not my welder, but my helmet. Turn my gas off on the welder. I'm done with it. So my auto shade stopped auto shading, but there's a ton of adjustability to that front end, so I can even get it a little lower. But honestly, I don't want it much lower than that, so it's going to work pretty well. I'm going to have a lot more tire than rim. We're going with much smaller wheels. Oh, it looks like I have a massive amount of adjustment to do on my... The one wheel's nice and straight. This one is it's steering down a little bit. So we need to push that guy out and see where the world kind of goes. That looks dead on straight. So my ballparky eyeball alignment was not even in the realm. Oh, and so that's got to go. It's officially now a 6.8. Would that make a 4? Yeah, something like that. So those will go away. That 0.2 more or 3 more is all the power, you know. So that is that. That's all on. Transmission's in. Now I can roll this thing out so I can get the doors all the way open and start pulling all that apart. The steering wheel is probably going to go away also, since those wheels kind of matched the rims. So that steering wheel is going to be bye-bye. The paddle shifter that was part of that steering wheel, that goes bye-bye. So we will move. I've said lots of so's. So, and so. So I got a big mess. Lots of fun to clean. Ah, Mr. Radiator. I was talking about how it was much narrower. There's the same radiator that I took out. Well, called the place I ordered and everything from. I foobar because they asked what's your radiator opening now, what's your current and Problem is my current radiator was an aftermarket radiator, so that's why I got a very similar size radiator to what's there. This is not like a 4-core or, you know, old school. It's totally different technology. They truly guarantee that I will not overheat that engine with this radiator, that it's absolutely fine and no problems. So that radiator is going in, even though I could easily go with a little bit bigger radiator. I have more room for a bigger radiator. They said that radiator will handle it all day long. So I will put that in. I've got a lot of cleaning to do. I haven't eaten any grub yet, so I'll throw some food in my belly. Still have the carts available. Let's say one more good night to that beautiful engine. It's in! It's in, it's in, it's in, it's in, it's in, it's in.
Transmission blood stick over here.